There we go. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Cassandra Crawford Sigler. I am one of the career coaches for the Center for Career Development and Professional Engagement, and I want to welcome you for joining us this afternoon. I'm going to share my screen here for just a couple of seconds so that I can introduce our speaker today. So you are joining us for our virtual career lab today, Building a Brand to Market Your Best Self. Our speaker today is Audrey Boyle, who is a TU alumna. She graduated in 1999. Audrey Boyle believes the quickest and best way for common ground for people is laughter. After stepping down as one of the youngest vice presidents for Home Depot at age 29, she became a college professor teaching personal branding and social media marketing. With a social media follower of over 100,000, her classes at Forbes Business School get as much hands-on experience and insider information as she can provide for them. She's also a co-founder of an educational think tank, Hall Pass Education, where she and her team are bridging the gap between academia and the reality with innovative coursework. So today, I want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. All of our individuals who are joining us today are in listen-only mode. So if you have questions, please type those into the Q&A box. Audrey has graciously said that she'll be looking at those during the presentation, so she may answer them while she's doing the presentation, or we may wait till the end and address those. This presentation is being recorded and will be available for viewing after today on our canecareers.com website. So, Audrey, I am going to stop now and say thank you, first of all, so much for joining us today, sharing your wealth of knowledge and experience, and I'm going to turn this over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And absolutely, if you guys type in the chat, we can work through this. I'm not the type of speaker that just stands in front of the room and doesn't engage the audience and everybody, the participants. So if you have any questions or anything like that, I'm definitely going to be doing shout outs so that you can participate. So thank you so much, Cassandra, for that introduction. My name is Audrey Boyle, and we are talking about building a brand to market your best self. So this subject is really near and dear to my heart. It's something that I really have incorporated and been very mindful of for the last few years, really with everything that I've been doing. And so we're going to kind of walk through my story, and then if you have any questions or anything like that, and I'm going to give you some action items, and I'm going to ask you some questions and things to think about. But your best self is really your best self. No one can be your best self but you, right? Nobody has your approach. So if somebody says, oh, that idea is already taken, it doesn't matter, because your approach to that, whatever it happens to be, will be your own and will be different and be specific. So that doesn't necessarily matter. So what is your best self? How do you really find your best self and put it out there online? So let me go ahead and pull up this presentation that I made, because I got really creative recently. And so that you can see my screen. Please let me know if you can't see my screen. Can you see my screen? Are we good? Cassandra, can you let me know?
Not yet.
Okay. Okay.
There we go.
There we go.
Yes.
So I did graduate from Tulsa in 1999. Which I'm sure you're already typing in the chat, you know, oh, you're so young and beautiful. Like, how is that possible? 99, it seems so old. It seems like you're just so old. No, I mean, let me stop you before you type that in and let you know, yes, it was 99 that I graduated. And it was one of the it was the best years, I feel like. Well, some of the best years of my life, because it was leaving home, it was freedom, in my opinion. If I kept my grades up, my parents didn't necessarily bother me. So I was like, okay, this is an opportunity to really strike out and figure out who I am and who I want to be. So graduated from Tulsa in '99, and it was kind of fun to go back. I went back and I spoke at Tulsa last year in September on personal branding. And that was for the Tulsa Business Center. And so you're seeing some really cute pictures of me. Well, I mean, hopefully you think they're cute, but it's me. I was a pom girl at TU, and it was really great to come back to campus because so much had changed. It's just amazing, but so much was the same. So walking down memory lane to where it all started. And one of the quotes that I say daily is, never forget why you started. And why I started was I had this big ultimate goal to really be my best self. I didn't want to change who I was. I really wanted to make it, I guess, quote, quote, right? Make it by being who I was and being authentic to who I am. So now that you've seen some wonderful pictures of me when I was in college and so young at that point, I want to talk about your best self. So I have a couple questions for you. Let me go back to this slide. So put in the chat a hi in the year that you graduated from TU. So if it was in 1999 or, you know, the 90s, go ahead and say hi and put the year there. If it was 2000 to 2010, give me a hi and go ahead and put the year that you graduated. If it's 2010 to 2020, go ahead and say hi so I know where you're at and that you graduated in that time frame. And then if it's you are a current student right now at Tulsa, let me know. I want to know who the current people are. So give me a shout there. I'm gonna check the chat right now. Actually, Cassandra, can you check the chat? For some reason, I'm not able to do that while I'm sharing my screen, so.
Sure, so we have graduates from 2011, 2010, current 2020, and we've got someone who's also a current student, 97, someone from 1993. We've got staff who are attending.
Nice.
And then obviously some of these individuals, like myself, are current staff but did not attend TU. So I guess we can say my first graduation was 1988. So there you go.
There you go. Okay, so it looks like we got a kind of a good mix. Current students, amazing. This is a crazy time, right? I think that it's an opportunity. I look at what's going on right now, the pandemic, everything that's going on. It's like we're in this snow globe, right? Do you feel like you're in a snow globe where someone shook it up and you're just like, what? Like, oh my God, there's furniture and there's snow and I don't know where I am, and shaking it. But you know, when it comes to a snow globe and you set it on the table and everything settles, you can kind of get an idea of where you landed. And that's kind of what college is all about. It's like you've been shooken up in a snow globe, especially now with the pandemic, and then who knows where everything's gonna land. But just to let you know, the end of the story is everything's gonna be okay. And getting a college graduation is nothing but good things. It has been the most rewarding thing that I have ever accomplished. And I think that really what it is that to get a college degree, you have to go through some stuff. Some things, most people don't cruise through college and nothing happens. Like it's just all sunshine and rainbows. There's usually some things that go on that you have to dig into in order to get it done and get your degree. So you guys are in a really good position. So one of my favorite sayings is content is king, but consistency is queen. So the reason why I say this all the time is because most people are paralyzed when it comes to their online content. They are thinking like, hey, it has to be perfect. It has to be the best. It has to be, oh, I don't like what I look like or I sounded like or that post or whatever I put out there. And so they do nothing at all. So the more consistent you are, the more creative you get. And it's just the law of averages. So if you have 10 posts out there, then you're telling a broad story as opposed to one post. That's the only thing that they have to go off of. So the consistency is everything. If you have one amazing piece of content and then it's gone, then that's it. But if you're consistently posting, then it goes so far. And not just online, but actually face-to-face too. So offline and online. And I do a lot of work when it comes to your offline presence should be the same as your online presence. It should be the same. It shouldn't be where people meet you and they go, you know, I'm not really sure, like this is so different than her, you know, it should be the same conversation. So there are so many benefits to being authentic and being who you are. My story is after graduating from Tulsa in '99, I had a marketing degree, so I went into sales because it was like marketing or sales. You have a great personality, and I like to say. And so go into sales. So I went into sales and I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and I just kind of stumbled on all of the positions that I had. So it was, hey, this company is hiring at the time that I'm looking for a job. Okay, I'll work for this company. And I never really thought of like zooming out and looking at the strategy of like what I really ultimately wanted to happen at the end of my life, like where it was all going. So the authenticity of me just kind of working myself up the corporate ladder was, in sales, you have to get in the door and you have to get attention. And so I went about it a variety of different ways. And this was all unknowing, right? It was like, okay, I just want to make my quota. I just want to do really good at job. So I'm going to do this. This came naturally to me. But there's so many benefits to being authentic in the workplace and being who you are and not feeling like, okay, I'm at work now. I got to put on my work hat. And okay, I'm at home now, so I get to be free in who I am. Ideally, what I want for all of you is that this is your life. Like there's no difference between what you're like at work and what you're like at home. It's all the same. It's you, and it's you as your best self. So social selling and the consistency of social selling. So 78% of salespeople say that if they engage with social selling, which is posting online, branding themselves, then they have an increase in sales, or an increase in job offers, or an increase in opportunities. What social selling does actually, and a difference from social media marketing, is it really tells people who you are. So they feel like they know you before they've met you, or they know what you're trying to brand yourself as. They have a good idea of what you're all about. So there are so many benefits to doing all of that. And actually, just to go back to this picture, it looks as if I may be giving, you know, in this picture, it looks as if I'm giving like maybe some insightful words or something like that. This was taken from Chicago Ideas Week last year, which is a big open forum of kind of think South by Southwest if you're into festivals for education, but it's in Chicago. So I did Chicago Ideas Week Biggest Mistakes Night. So at this point in this picture, I was probably admitting to my biggest mistakes, because I think that most people don't realize that we live in the failure zone, right? So the success happens like 1% of the time, right? But 99% of the time is just failure. And failing and being comfortable with failure and realizing that it's just an opportunity. It's not quite a failure. It's just like, oh, wait, I have more information now and I can pivot. So game plan. I'm a big sports junkie. My family comes from big sports. My brother went to TU. He played football for TU. I was a pom-pom girl on the dance team. My sister's a sports psychologist with the Chicago Bulls. So we're a big sports family. So I may use some sports analogies. So what is the game plan? If you want to build your brand and you want to market your best self, what's the game plan? Come up with a strategy. And what are the questions that you're asking yourself? So I'm going to challenge you guys. Put in the chat if there's something that you want to learn in this presentation. I don't necessarily know what it is that you don't know or how I can help you. And I don't want to throw up on you with information. So if there's something that you're like, okay, I'm logging onto this call for one particular reason, then let me know what it is and type that in the chat. And then I'm going to ask you, is there anything that I said that was surprising? So those two questions, and this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to questions, right? So how do you market your best self? You have to ask yourself the tough questions. So where to start? Playing offense. A lot of people say to me, I don't know where to start. What do I do? Start with your playing offense. So the more you post, the more you are ahead. So if you think of a Hail Mary, which is just throwing the ball up wildly and hoping that your teammate will catch it in the end zone and that you will get the touchdown and win the game, for example, a lot of people look at it like it's just one big Hail Mary, but that's not really the case. So playing offense with your brand. Okay, so I want to kind of slow down to the idea of this is a game plan. If you change and tweak your social media profiles, if you post, if you go to a networking event, if you have a virtual coffee or a face-to-face coffee, if you go and you reach out to a past connection, or you make a new connection, or you go and you tweak your website, something along those lines, that's playing offense. That's running a play. So you put all of that together, and that's what consistently moves you down the field. So you're consistently moving down the field. So when it comes time to throw the ball up, you don't have to gun it. It doesn't have to go 60 yards or something like that. And then you're just like, oh, I hope it lands, like you're praying for it to land in the right position. It's more of a case of, oh, it's a couple of steps. I can just get there, and it's a little bit simpler. Okay, so I want you to, and I'm going to go into the sports analogy. So the stands are everybody who is watching you. So people that like and engage with your content, or people that follow you, picture that they are on the field taking pictures. They're part of the team. They're giving you water. And so what can you use in order to make plays to move down the field? So I have social media profiles in there, and I'll talk more about what to do to kind of to get a consistent social media profile. But that point is you want it to all be consistent. So if somebody goes and checks out, they Google your name, what comes up? And it has to be a consistent story or it'll be confusing. Most people think that the best way to go is to do everything, to be the jack of all trades. Like, hey, I can do everything. And that's how I used to approach it when before I got into higher education and everything that I'm doing to conquer the world. Is I looked at it like when I would go to a job interview, I would say, oh, I can do whatever you want. I can do this, I can do that. I'm great at everything. But I didn't stop to think, like, what do I really want to do? Like, really, what's my goal in life? Where am I going? What's my plan? What's my strategy? Figuring out some boundaries, because when you get consistent, and I'm coming back to the consistency part, right? When you get consistent throughout your entire profile, your digital presence, your online presence, then people remember you. They remember who you are. And it's about you as opposed to, okay, she can do 30 different things. So I'm just gonna tell you a little story. So I went to, way back when, I went and I visited with the client, and this is before, I feel like this is my past life. And I said, here's my list of services. And I gave her a list of 30 different things that I could do. And I didn't feel good about it. I'm not sure how she felt about it. I think she was completely overwhelmed. And instead of me choosing 2 or 3 things that I love doing and sending her those, I sent her 30 different things because I could do it. I knew how to do it. I learned how to do it in school, or maybe I had some experience doing it. So I thought, oh, let me give her everything. And that's like throwing up on them. And then she didn't know what to do. You end up being discounted when you're too general. When you can do everything, then you're discounted because it's too overwhelming. People can't remember who you are. So I always say advice, you know, specialize, get a niche, get something that you really like doing and focus on that and doing that really well. And letting everybody know that is what you want to do and that is what your goal is in life. So my goals in life, comedian, I'm a college professor, I'm a content creator. Okay, so, and if you look at my digital presence, it's the same consistently throughout. So BHAG, does anyone know what that is? And I ask this question quite often to people. I say, what is your big, hairy goal? So that's what that means. So what's your big, hairy goal in life? And most people go, well, I always wanted to do, and depending on what they say, I know if they've really thought out long-term what their career strategy is. So if I hear, hey, I want to have a good job and I want to, you know, have money in the account and something along those lines material, I'm always thinking like, okay, well, they're not, for one thing, they're not focusing on the right things. And those are things that you can't put on your tombstone, right? That's not legacy stuff like, oh, wow, you know, she really had no debt and she had a really good job. Like they're generally not putting that on your obituary. So big, hairy goal. So my big, hairy goal is to make people laugh and to help people, right? My big, hairy goal is to be and push yourself and say your big, hairy goal every day. So these are the questions you're asking yourself. If you're thinking about what is my big, hairy goal? How do I figure it out? Think back in your life. Yes, this is the end of your life and you're looking back and you're like, I did it. What is that? What is that it? And start to ask yourself these tough questions because many people don't look at it like that. Okay, so start to think what your big, hairy goal is because how are you going to get there if you've never really figured it out and defined it? And then if your big, hairy goal doesn't scare the bejesus out of you the first time you say it out loud, you're not pushing yourself enough. Okay, so the first time I said mine, I was in my car. I think I had the music up and I was like whispering, you know, and I was like, oh my God, someone's gonna hear me, you know? And then over time, the more that you say it, the more comfortable you get with it. So my big, hairy goal is that I want to be well known for something that you can't label or describe. So that kind of is the foundation for my jam, everything that I do, okay? So what is your why? What is your why? So why are you doing it? Moving towards your big, hairy goal with purpose. Why? What is your why? What's the point? So if you know what your why is, you can move towards your what with purpose and meaning. So there's lots of conversation online if you Google what is your why or discovering your why, that you can jump down that rabbit hole. But I challenge you to come up with or think about these questions and really try to drill down to what it is. So I say to somebody, hey, you were working, what were you doing when you were working? If you're talking to your friend, you say, oh, what were you're working, what were you working on? Generally, sometimes I may be working on what is my why, what's my big, hairy goal in life, what are my intentions? That's considered work too, because that will help you with your approach with everything that you do. If there's any questions, let me know, Cassandra, because I, again, can't see any questions. So I have here grassroots strategy.
We have several if you want.
Oh, okay.
So as you've been going through this slide, there were several, so I'll start. Okay. So how do I stand out to employers in this new virtual environment?
Standing out to employers, grassroots strategy. That's a good question. I'm going to cover that when it comes to your personal brand. That's a really good question.
Okay. So the next one is, how do you balance the consistency versus being overbearing? I think that was talking about when you were addressing social media profiles.
Without being overbearing. So that is one of the And I'm gonna actually move to this slide based off of that. And let me talk through this slide, and then I think we'll come back to the questions, and maybe I answered some questions.
Okay.
Way. So personal branding. Personal branding is really social media marketing for individuals. And I taught the college class, and I do teach the college class personal branding. So it's a college class, right? And there is a lot of misconceptions when it comes to personal branding. One of them is that you're bragging or boastful. So personal branding is not being bragging or boastful. It really is educating people on who you are. So right now, there's so much hitting us all the time, right? And we have really big filters. The human brain right now in this crazy digital world we live in has filters set up. So how do you separate yourself? How do you set yourself apart? And that is through personal branding. Okay, so if you have to educate people on who you are in order for them to know who you are. And most people don't take the time to actually research you and try to figure out what your big hairy goal is and where you're going and everything in life. We simply don't have the time and energy. So it's a good idea to set yourself apart by telling them exactly where you're trying to go. So second one is that if I work really hard, people will notice. That's the second misconception. I work so hard, I'm doing all these different things. I'm sure everyone is noticing how hard I'm working. That's a misconception. Generally, we as well, we're getting hit with so many things. We don't realize like, oh, Audrey spent 12 hours working on this report, or she did this unbelievable job. We don't stop to think that unless you tell us, right? Then we know. Third misconception is that my manager is going to brand me, or my boss is going to brand me, or they're the ones pitching me when I'm not in the room. And that's a misconception, because generally your manager is pitching themselves. I mean, they're in this game called life just like you. Okay, so elevator pitch. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's the idea that you're on the top floor of a building and you get in the elevator with the person that you want to know everything about you. And as you're going down from the top floor down to the bottom floor, what is you have 60 seconds. What is it that you say to them before that elevator door opens and you walk out and you're in the wild and you never know if you're going to see them again? So I have here, and generally people lead into this question in many different ways. So you go to a networking event or you're at a party or something along those lines, and somebody says, oh, what do you do? You know, or you're at a job interview and they say, tell me about yourself. You know, the big job interview question, tell me about yourself. And what is it that you say? Generally, when somebody says to me, I'm the VP of sales at XYZ company, I generally respond with, do you love your job? And if they say no, because it's happened to me quite often, like, it's just a job. Like, well, why did you lead with that? Why do you want me to only know about that job? That's the first words out of your mouth, right? Or if it's just that title, that's not where you're trying to go. So something to consider when it comes to your elevator pitch is, what do you want to do? Not just what do you do. So what do you want to do? I was telling people that I was a comedian way before I feel like people thought I was a comedian, right? I felt like an imposter telling people that I was a comedian. And so, but I threw it out there. So somebody said, oh, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a comedian, I'm a college professor. So that's how you start out. You make the claim. So that's 1 and 2 you see on my slide. Third thing is context and value. So what that means is, why should they care so much about the fact that you made this claim? So I'm a comedian, I'm a college professor. You know, laughter, the quickest way to common ground is laughter. or you're more optimistic in your thinking if you hear, or you're collaborative in thinking if you hear optimistic humor. So you're flexible, it's healthy, it's good for you. Laughing in the classroom is good because you retain information. So I make it my point to be funny in the classroom. So I'm giving context and value. Okay, and I'm just ripping here right now, right? But kind of get an idea. And if you don't, I can definitely go through this again. Fourth thing is evidence. So and then fifth is metrics and examples. So that kind of goes together. So what are your metrics and what numbers can you give them and what examples can you give them about your claim? So I say, comedian, I have 100,000 followers on Facebook, or I create sketch comedy videos for my life. Or if I say, what I do or I want to do, I'm a content creator. I just create content wildly. And I think that the goal is really to have low effort, to create something good and to be consistent, right? So I'm throwing out the context and value, why you should care. And then at the same time, I'm giving some examples and some numbers. So this has to be conversational, right? It can't sound forced and weird, or people are going to look at you like, okay, I'm not really sure what's going on. So I would say, that the question's going to happen, write it down, practice it, and figure out how you are going to put that within your digital presence. So you figure out your elevator pitch, and it may be 2 or 3. You may say, I want to really do this, I really want to do this, and I really want to do that. And in the last slide, I had grassroots strategy, because maybe you don't know, you don't have a title that you want to throw out there. But maybe you say, I'm very organized and strategic thinker, or it's my goal to help people, whatever your claim happens to be. So grassroots, you can talk about what you're really good at doing. You don't necessarily have to talk about where you ultimately want to go, because in this digital world we live in, that job, you don't even know about it. You don't even know it exists. Or there may be an opportunity that you never even considered that'll come at you. So walking through, let me do like a little role play here, right? So somebody comes up to me and they're like, oh, you're a comedian? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a comedian. I introduce myself to people like that. And I tell them about the benefits of laughter. So I've given them the why should they care. When they walk away from the conversation, they have some real information that they can use with their life, some statistics, some information. And then I'm also giving them metrics and examples that they can grab onto. So at a party, and this has happened to me quite often, someone says, oh, my cousin's a comedian, or my uncle's a producer, or, I'm really funny, and how do I get into stand-up? Or where can I see you do your comedy? So I'm getting the questions that I want to get asked. I'm having the opportunities come at me that I'm looking for. Oh, you know what? You're so funny. Why don't you come to my party and present to people, to whoever's there? So you can see how it works, right? As opposed to if I said, I'm a college professor, I work for Forbes Business School. And if that person doesn't know anything about Forbes Business School, or maybe they're not in higher education, they don't know what to say to you after that. They go, oh, great. Okay. Well, what do you teach? Or what do you tell me more? Or they're just trying to strike up conversation. But it's almost like a closed door when it comes to who you are. And you are leaving it up to the person you're talking to fact find on you. And they may not care or have the attention span to really try to filter through everything that you're saying. So I say, like, play offense. You know the question's coming. Figure out what it is that you're going to say, many different ways, and practice. Get in front of the mirror, practice delivering it, talk it out. And then once you have it completely figured out, make sure that it's in your digital presence. So if you were to go check me out right now, you probably would have a good idea that I'm a content creator, I'm a comedian, and I'm a college professor. Those 3 buckets, right? So it's there, it's out there, my digital presence too, so it keeps everything really consistent. I'm really good at a lot of other things, but I want people to remember me for those specific things. And that is how you can build a brand. That's how you market your best self, is because that is what your best self is what you really want to do. And so you want to put that out there. You want everyone to know about that. That maybe answered some of your questions. I think there was a question about how you stand out to employers. And that's really how you stand out, is giving them something to latch onto that's consistent. So it's not like a, hey, I'm a really good student, or hey, I can do everything you want me to do. It's, what is the specific brand and what is it going to be like to work with you? So I was working with a client recently who was all about positivity. I mean, I'm about positivity, but it's not my jam, right? She's all about positivity. And so I challenged her to do some research. What are the benefits of being positive or hearing positive information every day? And so when she went to her job interview and she's talking to them and she can do all the things, her resume is got all the things that are the experience, she was talking to them about being positive and how that has impacted her life. So she got the job, and the main thing is she got the job because they're thinking, hey, like, that's awesome that she's positive too. So you want to stand out, standing out. And that is how you stand out, is by thinking about who you really are, who your best self is, and then going and doing some research on why that's really makes sense, giving some metrics and examples. What are the stories that you can tell that showcases the fact that you are funny, or that you are a good teacher, or that you're good at music, or you're a great athlete, or however you're trying to brand yourself. So, and I'm going on now I'm in the 4-5, so examples, and that would be stories. So if you go on a job interview, and I always feel like when I get the job interview question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, I feel like I failed as an interviewee. Like, I feel like if we get to that question, it's like at the tail end of like, what else do we talk about? And you want to stand out. So coming up with the, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Tell a story. Tell an entertaining story. It doesn't have to be funny, but it really showcases the fact that what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and then they remember you. They remember who you are through the story, and they get a good idea of your personality, your character, and what it's like to work with you. I don't know if that answered the questions, but I'm gonna pull up my question slide right now, and then we can go through the chat and see what other questions we have.
Sure. So
did that answer the question, whoever asked it?
You definitely got the one on how to stand out in a virtual environment. I'm not sure if you quite got this one. So balancing the consistency on being consistent versus being overbearing. I think you may have touched on that a little bit. If you want to kind of go back on that a little bit more, maybe.
Yes. So see here in my presentation, that's my info if you ever want to reach out to me.
Okay.
My handle is not Audrey Boyle, because Audrey Boyle is kind of a common name. So I decided to not be Audrey Boyle.
Perfect.
Okay, so how to stand out employers in this new virtual environment. I feel like right now, like when it comes to consistency, it's consistency and frequency, right? Most people say that, like, oh, be really consistent, and frequency, so as often as you can manage it. But something to consider is low effort too. So when I come back to the big hairy goal, or what you're really good at, or really what you gravitate towards, you want it to be low effort. You want it to be something that you're doing along the way as you're going about your day. It's not like I have to stop and think about what I'm going to post, or what I'm going to say to my manager, or whatever. It's not like that. It shouldn't be like that throughout your day. It should just all be one conversation, and it should be low effort.
Very good. Let's see.
How do I build my brand and following in an online medium? I think a lot of people, when it comes to building a brand, Think about what you're really good at. Think about what you do when you're fed and you're not tired and nobody is pulling your attention. What do you spend your time doing? And a lot of my students will say, oh, I play video games. Okay, that's okay. There's no shame in that. Or, oh, I watch YouTube videos. Okay, that's great. That's what you're doing from a high level, but why? Why do you gravitate towards whatever? Me, I love murder mysteries, whodunit, but I like puzzles. So start to think about, like, why is it that you're gravitating towards doing that? If you like the stories in the video game, or you really like the strategy. I had a student who said, I love watching old game tape of football games. And I said, well, think about the strategy of it, because you know how the game is going to end, but you are really looking at the moving parts. So look at what you're gravitating towards, what comes naturally to you, and start there. So mine, I noticed that people tend to laugh when I talk, right? So I was like, okay. And I really like to make people laugh. That's my why. I really like making people laugh. Really like helping people and helping students. So those are the foundational things. And then I looked at, like, okay, how do I build a brand on that? And how do I build a following on that? And right now in this pandemic, I feel like it's easier. It is, I don't feel like it's easier. It is easier to build a audience from that. We have more attention now than we've ever had before. So you don't necessarily need to have subtitles on your videos, because nobody has time to, like, listen to your video. People can listen to your video now. So think about who it is that you want to impact. What is your legacy? So mine is, I would love to help inspire young people, students. So all of my content speaks to that. So who do I want to, who is in my target audience? And I want to focus on talking to them directly. So if my target audience is employers, I really want to work with, in the oil industry, I'm just throwing out examples. Then once you figure out that and you think, okay, I'm a strategic thinker, I'm a program manager, I'm really good at leadership or management, you identify what you really want to be branded as, then it's really a case of shooting fish in a barrel, right? I mean, we have all the information on everybody who's in the oil industry, for example. So it's all about reaching out to them and letting them know who you are, educating them on who you are and what your capabilities are, and looking at those opportunities. So if my target audience is oil, I want to be an executive at an oil company. Okay, so I'm going to go research everyone who is executives in oil companies. I'm going to look at their profiles. I'm going to look at their LinkedIn. I'm going to try to find their resumes. I'm going to look at all of what they have done in their past and what I have on my resume, or what I can add to my profile in order to match that industry, or this industry professionals. And if I think, oh, I really want to lead 100 people, what type of people do you want to lead? Okay, I really want to lead people in their 20s and 30s. Okay, so when you're posting or whenever you're going about your life, talk directly to that avatar, that target audience. So if I want young girls to know, like, think, okay, I can do this. Anything's possible. The world is my oyster. And I want them to feel empowered and motivated. What is the content that I'm putting out that will help them get there? And through that, that's where the consistency comes. So if I'm doing a quote, if I'm sharing a post, if I'm creating a video, or maybe I'm just typing something out text-wise, I'm speaking directly to that audience. And that's how you build an audience, not necessarily being general, like, hey, I'm just posting and just hoping wildly somebody is going to think it's awesome and then come back to me and say, hey, great, I really liked that, and I'm going to figure out where you're trying to go in life and offer you this opportunity. Instead of that, play offense and say, okay, I have identified who I want to be around, who I want to have in my network, and what are the skills and capabilities they have, and then being consistent with your messaging to them.
Perfect. All right.
What if I don't want employers to have access to my personal social media? Is LinkedIn enough? Honestly, employers will find your, so like, I think that you should just play offense with it. You know, that most employers know how to figure out what your Facebook is, what your Twitter is. And if it's messy, then clean it up, make it your name to begin with. Don't have some random handle that isn't your name. And play offense with it and set it up. I mean, LinkedIn is enough. My husband is only on LinkedIn and it works really well for him. But I always look at it like it's an opportunity, because if somebody Googles my name, they're going to pull up my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Twitter, way before they pull up my personal website. My YouTube videos, all of that stuff is going to come up first. So I want to control what information is out there about me. And the way to do that is by putting it out there myself.
Good advice.
How do you market yourself when your experience doesn't match up with what you're wanting to do? How do you market? So say you want to be a manager, or you want to be a program manager, you want to be a librarian. I don't know, I'm throwing out random positions. If you post consistently about management or leadership or education or medicine or whatever it happens to be, if that's the information you're putting out there all the time, then the employers will start to think of you like that. So many people, this is, you know, employers being, they're human beings, they're going to do as much research on you as possible before they actually reach out to you. So the more information, the better. So if you have a bunch of information about how you're a great manager, and lots of, in the post, you're talking about being a good manager and you're really drilling in, then people naturally start to assume that you are a good manager. So if you don't necessarily have the experience, look at it like college. You can get the experience, right? All of the skills that you are looking for are out there. How do you get there? So if you need, the job says 2 years of experience or whatever, I think job descriptions are generally not written very well. And they're written by the person who is not hiring. So ideally, actually 98% of the jobs that people get now are all based off of relationships. 2% of the jobs that people get are from applying online. So with that idea, hey, you want to be whatever that position happens to be, look at my my example of, you want to be in this position or you're looking for these opportunities. Do a lot of research, start to play offense with your digital presence. And then I say, you know, digital presence, but offline presence too. So look at your network, and everybody in your network should know what you're trying to do. And they should know, like, oh yeah, like, it's a really good manager. He said something along the lines, or she said something along the lines that made me really think, or something like that. Right? So that way, everybody in your network knows what you're trying to do, and they understand, like, okay, people generally, experience doesn't necessarily matter so much as the relationship. So you're establishing your network, and where do you go? How do you start? I always say, like, how do you start with figuring out what your brand is? You have already been branded one way or another. Everybody has. you're sitting and you think about if you're sitting in class and the person next to you is wearing a business suit and you're wearing a sweatshirt and you're just like whatever, you're already thinking like, oh wow, they're taking this seriously, or where do they work, or all of these things are going on. You walk by somebody on the street, that's a brand. So it's your network is not something that you have to move further than your household to start. So what is your brand all about? So give some surveys to people that you know. So I would say like mix it up, give 10 surveys out, and past colleagues, friends, family, and maybe somebody that you just met like a couple of months ago, and ask them some questions like, what do you think I do all day? If I were to train you on something, what would that be? And why? What do you think my superpower is? How would you introduce me at a party? So these specific questions, get all the information back, and then you'll start to realize like, oh wait, oh, I like that, or oh, I don't like that. When I did my surveys about 8 years ago, it was very interesting. A lot of people didn't even know I was a college professor. I got back, you're really smart and you're great at social media. And I was like, oh, okay, that's lame. Like I want to do more than that. So I realized that I needed to give my elevator pitch to my entire network, and starting with your household and your friends and your family. They should all know your elevator pitch. Don't assume that they know based off of the fact that they've known you for a long time. And those people in your life are the ones who are going to really expand your network and provide opportunities, because they're the ones introducing you at a party. How do you narrow down your areas of expertise? I think covering that was thinking about what you really want to do. And so the grassroots of not what are the employers looking for? Think about what you really want to do. That's really the meat of it. I really like teaching, and I stumbled upon teaching because I liked training salespeople when I was with the Home Depot. And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? I don't know what to do. My husband's like, what did you really like about the job that you had? So start to think like, what do I really like about my job? Or the next time you think, oh, this was so fun, what are you doing? What's the action that you're taking? Because ideally, that's the action that you're taking all the time, because then you're happy and life is good, right? So think about how you incorporate your offline brand, your online brand, and your work life. If all of it should come together. It should all be one story. So if they meet you, they know, oh, okay, like I met this person, they're really great, they seem really funny, or they told me they're really organized, okay, great. And then they go check you out online, absolutely, all checks out. Then the next time they meet you, because they're seeing posts maybe, or your presence is out there, the next time they meet you, you're just continuing the conversation. It's not that you're starting from scratch all the time.
Good.
Big, hairy, audacious goal. I like it.
One more question in the Q&A. How do you make a career or industry change when all of your experience has been in a particular field?
Ooh, that's rough. No, I'm joking. It's you feel as if you can't get out, and you really want to get out, but how do you get out because you don't have the experience, right? It's tough. So it goes back to branding yourself, to where the grassroots strategy of what do you want to be known for. And so I would say if you're looking to get out into another industry, go through building your brand. Build your brand, whatever industry you want to get into, or whatever job that is different from your current one. Start to put that into your brand, into your posts, into your profile. So social media profiles, it should match up with what you want to do, what your metrics are. It should be all very consistent. So say I want to be a talk show host. That's in the works. So I want to be a talk show host, and so I can put that in my my LinkedIn profile. I can put that in my social media profile. I can talk about it when I'm talking to friends. Hey, this is what's going on. And not a I want to, I hope to, I wish, hopefully, I think, I'm trying. Don't use any of those words. Because be confident in the fact that your abilities are in your what you want to do, you can get into. Anything is possible. Anything's possible.
Very good advice. Well, Audrey, it looks like we have answered all of the questions that have come in and have had an amazing amount of information from you today. So I think that, we've come to the end of our hour, and I just want to say thank you so much. The information you have provided us today, I was sitting here taking notes throughout your presentation. So personally, I just want to say thank you. And I know that the Center for Career Development and Professional Engagement is really honored for you taking time out of your day to speak to those who joined in. We genuinely appreciate you as an alumna for coming and doing this for us. Just thank you so very much for your time, your information. So gracious, such wonderful information. And hopefully we'll see you maybe at homecoming if you come and visit us.
Yeah, hopefully. I want to come. I got lots of friends in Tulsa. I need to come back.
I'd love to see you. So
I leave one last nugget.
yes.
Follow up is everything, and self-sabotage is everything. So follow up, like if you go to anything, take the time to send messages and say, it was great to meet you. Or if you reach out to somebody, follow up. Don't just send one message, send two, send three. It's okay. We're busy. Everybody's busy in life. So maybe they didn't get to it the first time. They can get to it the second time. If this is something that you really want, don't feel as if like, oh, they're going to be like, oh, they're too much. They're going to say, oh, they're really passionate about whatever XYZ subject is. And don't ask for advice and not for favors. So asking for advice is really important. Like the first time you can contact somebody, you shouldn't be asking for a job. You want to continue the relationships and building yourself. So I'm just throwing that out there to follow up. I left my information. I think I flashed it up there. All of you, please reach out to me, connect with me, and let's continue the conversation.
Thank you very much. That is also very kind and gracious. We really appreciate that as well. And again, this recording will be available on the canecareers.com website. And you can also follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn and on our Instagram websites as well as you can follow Audrey Boyle as well. So again, with that, we're going to stop the recording today, and we hope to see you at our next presentation as well. So everyone, thank you for your time today. Appreciate you for joining us.